Right now, I am addicted to sugar. I haven't craved sugar like this in years, and I have no one to blame but myself. Don't worry, I will actually tell you guys how I managed to screw myself over in just a minute. But the main thing I want to get across to you is my sugar palate right now is through the roof, to the point where things that I'd normally have, I'd class as my sweet treats, they don't even taste sweet anymore. It's like I eat them and they just taste bland. So yeah, that's not really great. So first off, remember, a sugar addiction isn't just someone has a sweet tooth, as nearly most of us on the planet like sugary things because it's appealing to most people. The problem, or I guess the addiction, comes more into play when the intense cravings almost become uncontrollable and you feel like you're doing it without any willpower whatsoever. Like, have you ever watched The Godfather? The third one. There is a super famous line in the movie, which is, just as I thought I was out, they pull me back in. This perfectly encapsulates the reality for so many people out there that have a sugar addiction. And it's not just sweets, it's various items of food that have high sugar content that you won't even think of, which also does feed the cycle of you craving more and more and more sugar. So you're probably thinking, TJ, how should we, or at least how will I, go about trying to reduce these sugar cravings? And the worst mistake that a lot of people do, which is the most common one, which is they think they can just cut cold turkey, like just stop having all the sugary things from day one. This can work for some, but I feel like it's a smaller minority. You have to almost have very strong discipline to be able to just cut cold turkey. And I feel like if you're in this predicament, you probably don't have that ability. So personally, for me, step number one is analyzing what got me in this position, what got me into this cycle of just craving so much sugar, as finding the root cause can really help wrap your brain around it and help rationalize how this bad habit got started. And for me, the trigger was my trip to Japan. As much as I love Japan, and I really truly did, it was dope, I saw loads of good things, ate loads of foods. When I went there, I broke all the rules I typically do when I go on holiday. Typically, when I go on holiday, in regards to food, I normally try and have a balanced approach. I eat the culture's food when I can, because I'm a picky eater. But I try and eat as much as I can, while still making sure to be balanced. So my number one rule when traveling is, don't be a dickhead when it comes to food. But this time round, I was like, oh, I'm going to Japan. It's a once-in-a-lifetime trip. It's very unlikely I'm gonna return. I need to make sure I don't sacrifice any memories, any moments. I gotta just eat any and everything to make sure I maximize every single opportunity. And if I'm being honest, it sounds logical and it sounds like it's a good point. Like many of you listening may think, yeah, I agree. The problem is it was more so an excuse, because how does me saying, yeah, I'm gonna make sure I enjoy the vibes and just kind of make sure I don't miss out any moments, how does that equate to me having 2 large iced donuts every single day? It just don't make sense. Like how? It wasn't even Japanese inspired donuts. It was just donuts bought in a Japanese store. So that being said, I definitely just let down all the limiters and I shouldn't have done that. And trust me, those 2 donuts was not the only thing I was eating every single day. I was just stuffing my face. There was various biscuits, chocolates. I don't even like chocolate usually, but I just kind of went with the flow. There was just a lot of things I was having with the justification of I'm on holiday, which was basically my undoing, because I've been back now for like 3, almost 4 weeks, and I still can't shake all these sugar cravings. Like nearly every single one of my low calorie, sweet kind of snacks I normally have, which normally does satisfy my sweet tooth, I'm eating them now and they just feel like I'm eating almost nothing. They don't feel that sweet. So it's really interesting as to how fast your brain can almost rewrite itself when it comes to dopamine. Because before, these sweet tooth things would actually be like up here. Whereas right now, my brain after those weeks in Japan is like, no. The stuff you're currently eating is now down here. We've been having sweet things of this level for like weeks now, and this is our new normal. And you have to almost try and taper it back down so you get back to reality, but you feel like you can't. And this is one of the ways how beating a sugar addiction feels almost impossible, because the cravings are just gnawing at you and it's hard to kind of break out of it. So for example, you'll wake up every single day and go, you know what, today, I'm not gonna eat that much snacks. I'm gonna more or less tone it down. But throughout the day, you manage to somehow still find some reason to end up with those treats in your mouth, because all the dopamine signals in your brain has been fed through super highly palatable foods. It's really nice. And that's just me after a few weeks of eating these. Imagine if you're someone now that's been eating all these highly sugary foods since you were a kid. So for step 2, instead of instantly cutting out everything from day 1, what I'm aiming to do is the little items I have left that are in my low calorie sweet foods that still taste sweet, I'm doubling down on them. You gotta do smart swaps. So for me, when those sugar cravings start to kick in, I run to those small items of foods I've got left and just eat more and more. So luckily I've still got grapes, pineapples, certain batches of blueberries if they're like a good batch, some of my little fiber snacks, but not many of them anymore. And I'll just keep cycling through those because they still give me that sugar kick to the point where I feel satisfied. And because these items I'm having now are technically less sweet, as I start doing that and slowly taper down, hopefully the items I used to have like my low calorie jellies and cordial, those will also begin to start tasting sweet again. Also, you may have noticed by that list that I am not someone that is afraid of fruit. So if you're one of those people out there that thinks like a pack of blueberries or grapes is just as bad as having a pack of Haribo, we're probably not gonna get along because that is not the mentality I have. Eating proper fruits, not the juices, actual fruits, they are much better than any pack of sweets you're gonna buy for the most part. But yes, under normal circumstances, I wouldn't purposely be having high sugary fruits like grapes. But in this circumstance where you're trying to actually dial down and try and get back to normal, this approach is fine. Because our main aim at this point is basically to try and reduce the items of foods that like have all the extra added sugar. So, you know, basically things that didn't grow from the earth in essence. Not saying you can never have them at all, but the main thing is just trying to make sure these extra ones that you're just having more and more and more of, you need to try and dial it down. Otherwise you're gonna get fatter and fatter. Because trust me, while in Japan, I gained 7 to 8 pounds. So yeah, I highly recommend going the smart swap route. This method helped me big time last time I had these super itchy sugar cravings. And because it works for me, small, sustainable changes over time, and I'll gradually get back to getting my regular level of sugar palate. Because at the moment, your brain dopamine is craving that big hit. It's almost like someone on crack. You're really craving the hard stuff. But if you keep consistently weaning off like a smoker does with like constantly cutting down nicotine, you're gonna eventually get to the point where the things you used to have are now sweet again. Then we have step 3, acceptance. Because a nice way to think about it, or an egotistical way to think about it, is breaking out of a sugar addiction is like climbing a mountain. I'm using a big analogy to sort of make myself feel a little bit better. But my point is, it requires determination, perseverance, time, and the right set of tools. The tools being the right strategy and food replacements to kind of keep you going. And finally, avoiding any pitfalls or loose footing that you may have along the journey, which in real life would be things such as putting yourself in situations where you're likely to give in and cave. So that could be buying loads in multi-packs of snacks and keeping them in your house, in your cupboard, super hoping that you will actually practice restraint and not dip in there and pig out on the stuff. Just don't do it. Doing that to yourself means that every time you walk around your house or in the kitchen, you have to practice willpower, and eventually you're probably gonna cave in. So yeah, don't do it. Anyways, I mentioned earlier in the video that smart swaps are an extremely useful tool for bingers like myself to actually implement, but there are actually 5 more things I actually do follow to fight off binging. So check out this deep dive here where I'll tell you what they are and how to use them to help your journey to make sure they go smooth too.